In the bowels of Inquisitorial Fortress Terminus 9, where screams echo through endless corridors and mercy died centuries ago, a man is being murdered by truth. His name is classified. His face, unremarkable. His record, perfect. Until 3 weeks ago. Agent 779, Throne Agent, Imperial Assassin, 17 years of flawless service, 247 confirmed kills. Politicians, heretics, Xeno sympathizers, each one erased from existence as cleanly as deleting a file. And then, Station Malmouth-Seven, his final mission, his first failure. The poison in his bloodstream was already working. He could feel it, a cold fire crawling through his veins, shutting down organs one by one. 6 hours, maybe 8, until his heart simply stopped beating. But the Inquisition wanted answers first. They always do. His voice was a rasp, barely pushing past cracked lips. "Is this it then, Inquisitor?" he asked the darkness across from him. "The famous mercy of the Imperium? Death by slow poison in a forgotten cell." The response came cold and emotionless, enhanced by the Voxcaster surgically embedded in the Inquisitor's throat. "Agent 779, your file is immaculate. Commendations from 3 Lord Inquisitors. The Officio Assassinorum requested your transfer twice. You were perfection incarnate. And then you failed. Worse than failed. You chose to fail. Target, Dr. Elara Venn. Result, alive. Your report, equipment malfunction. Pause 1 second. We both know that's a lie. Inquisitor Castor Valdez, 43 years of service to the throne. A man who'd burned entire worlds on suspicion alone. A man who'd never questioned an order in his life. He leaned forward into the light. His face was a map of scars and augments. One I had been replaced with a mechanical lens that whirred as it focused. "Before you die, Agent, you will confess. Every detail, every hesitation, every traitorous thought that led you to spare a confirmed heretic." The servo skull between them pulsed with recording light. Red, patient, eternal. The assassin managed something between a laugh and a cough. Blood flecked his lips. "Does it matter anymore? I'm already dead. Your poison made sure of that. The Inquisition does not accept mysteries," Valdez said. "Speak. The God Emperor is listening." The assassin's eyes unfocused, looking past the Inquisitor, past the walls, into memory. "You want my confession?" he whispered. "Fine, but understand something, Inquisitor. By the time I'm finished, you might wish you'd just let me die quietly." The servo skull's lens focused, recording, witnessing, judging. "Let me take you back," the assassin said. 16 days ago, before I understood what the Imperium really is, before I learned the price of efficiency, before I stopped being a weapon, and became human again. It started the way every mission starts, with orders sealed in the Emperor's name, orders I never questioned. Until I did. Mission designation, Omega Vermilion 7. Target, Dr. Elara Venn. Age, 43 Terran Standard. Occupation, Senior Xenobiologist. Research Station, Malmouth-Seven. Crime, unlawful possession and study of Xenos biological materials. Sentence, immediate termination. Authority, Ordo Xenos, Inquisitor Castor Malthus. Time frame, 14 days. He read it 3 times. Memorized every word, every detail. Standard protocol for an agent of his caliber. 14 days. That bothered him even then. Most targets got 72 hours before an assassin arrived. 14 days meant they wanted this done quietly, carefully. No evidence, no witnesses, no questions. The file included surveillance images. Dr. Elara Venn, brown hair pulled back in practical bun, lab coat worn thin at the elbows, glasses with a crack in the left lens that she'd never bothered to repair. She looked ordinary, tired, human, not the face of heresy, not the face of corruption, just another exhausted Imperial servant grinding through another 16-hour shift in service to the throne. He'd killed Xeno sympathizers before, scientists who thought they could tame tyrannid organisms, tech priests seduced by Necron technology, rogue traders who smuggled alien genetic samples for profit. Every single one had died, convinced they were serving humanity. Every single one had been wrong. Or so he thought. 3 days later, He boarded a bulk cargo hauler bound for the Balearia sector. His cover: maintenance tech transfer. Generic. Forgettable. Perfect. No one remembers the quiet man in the corner reading technical manuals. No one asks questions. That's how you become a ghost. That's how you become death. The Emperor's Prophet, a bulk cargo hauler. 3 weeks, transit time, through the warp to reach the Balearia sector. He shared the passenger compartment with 60 other souls. Miners returning to their contracts. Technicians on rotation. Administratum clerks being shuffled like playing cards across the Imperium's vast bureaucracy. All of them gray. Anonymous. Forgotten. Perfect. He sat in the back corner, a battered technical manual open on his lap, his eyes tracking every passenger while appearing to read. Old habits. Professional paranoia. The miners talked about quotas, inner quality. The technicians complained about outdated equipment. The clerks said nothing at all, their eyes already dead from decades of pushing data files through endless chains of approval. These were the people the Imperium was built on, and nobody cared if they lived or died. Now approaching station Malmouth-Seven. All passengers prepare for docking. The Emperor protects. He closed the manual, adjusted his toolkit, became just another maintenance worker, just another cog in a machine, just another ghost. Malmouth-Seven, a research and mining station orbiting a dead world in the ass end of Imperial space. 5 habitat rings connected by a central spine, industrial sectors at the aft, research facilities in the bow. Between them, kilometers of corridors that smelled like recycled air, machine oil, and desperation. 17,342 registered inhabitants, according to the administrative census. He knew that number would be wrong. It always was. The census never counted the unregistered, the forgotten, the people who fell through cracks in the paperwork and simply ceased to exist. The station was dying. You could feel it the moment you stepped through the airlock. The lights flickered more than they should. The air tasted stale, filtered through scrubbers that were years overdue for maintenance. The deck plates vibrated with an irregular rhythm that suggested structural problems nobody had the resources to fix. This was a place the Imperium had already forgotten, and in forgotten places, people did desperate things. He spent the first 48 hours walking, learning the station's rhythm, understanding its patterns. Shift changes at 0600 and 1800. Meal distribution in the communal halls. Security patrols every 90 minutes in the research sectors, sloppy and predictable. In the hab rings, people moved with the exhausted shuffle of workers who'd long ago stopped believing things would get better. Their eyes were vacant, their conversations minimal. Malmouth-Seven wasn't just dying economically, it was dying spiritually. He overheard conversations in the meal halls, whispers about more budget cuts from the administratum, rumors of station closure, speculation about what would happen to 17,000 souls if the Imperium simply decided they weren't worth the expense anymore. The answer, of course, was nothing. The Imperium would do nothing. They'd simply stop sending supply ships, and 17,000 people would suffocate quietly in the void while bureaucrats filed reports about acceptable resource reallocation. On the second day, he located his target, Research Bay Gamma 12, high security zone, biometric scanners, arm guards, sealed blast doors thick enough to survive a hull breach. But nothing he hadn't bypassed before. That night, during the station's sleep cycle, he accessed the maintenance conduits, crawled through 40 meters of ventilation shaft, his carbon fiber blade between his teeth, a surveillance jammer in his pocket. Every sense heightened, every breath controlled. This was what he was born for. The research bay was larger than expected, 20 meters by 30. Laboratory stations arranged in precise grid formation, sterile white surfaces, medical equipment, computer terminals displaying genetic sequences in softly glowing green. Professional, clean, efficient, exactly what you'd expect from an Imperial research facility. And then he saw them. The children, 12 of them, ages 7 to 14, each in a medical bed, connected to monitors that beeped softly in the darkness, for lines running into small arms, breathing masks over pale faces. He froze in that ventilation shaft. Assassin training teaches you to expect anything, to adapt to any scenario. to complete the mission regardless of complications. But children? Sick children in a xenobiology research facility? That wasn't in the briefing. He watched for 17 minutes, motionless in a shaft. Professional habit said to memorize the environment. Count the exits. Identify vulnerabilities. But all he could see were 12 small bodies fighting for breath. All he could hear were monitors tracking heartbeats that were slowly, inevitably failing. One little girl, couldn't have been more than 9, shifted in her sleep. Her hand reached out, grasping at empty air, searching for someone who wasn't there. Even unconscious, she was looking for her mother. He backed out of the ventilation shaft, returned to his quarters, and for the first time in 17 years of service, he hesitated. Why? The Inquisitor's voice cut through the memory. Why did the presence of children alter your assessment? They were irrelevant to your mission parameters. The assassin's laugh was bitter. Irrelevant? Those 12 children were dying, Inquisitor. Not from Xeno's corruption, not from chaos taint, from something else. Something that made a xenobiologist desperate enough to commit heresy trying to save them. I needed to know why. What was worth that kind of desperation? What could make a loyal Imperial servant cross every line we're taught to defend? So you hesitated, Valdez said coldly. You allowed sentiment to compromise your mission. I gathered intelligence, the assassin corrected. I spent 3 days watching Dr. Venn, studying her patterns, understanding what she was really doing. And what I discovered, Inquisitor, changed everything. For 3 days, he watched. He spliced into the research bay surveillance system, routed the feed to his quarters, spent 72 hours studying Dr. Elara Venn's every movement. She arrived at 0500 every morning, an hour before anyone else. Used that time to check on each child personally, not just readings from the monitors. She physically examined them, adjusted their medication, checked their vitals with her own hands, held their hands when the pain got too much. Patient 001, Marcus, age 12, neural degradation accelerating, muscle control deteriorating. Patient 003, Sarah, age 7, organ failure, kidneys shutting down. Patient 004, Emma, age 9, seizures increasing in frequency and severity. She knew every name, every condition, every fear, and she was losing all of them. On the second day of surveillance, he watched Emma wake up crying. Soft child's voice, weak and frightened. The little girl's voice was barely a whisper through the speakers. Dr. Venn, when can I see my mama? She said she'd visit yesterday, but she didn't come. Is she angry with me? Dr. Venn put down her datapad, moved to the child's bedside, sat down in the chair that he realized she probably slept in most nights. Oh, sweetheart, she said, and he could hear the exhaustion in her voice. The grief she was trying to hide. Your mama isn't angry. She's just working extra shifts right now, trying to get clearance to visit. But she thinks about you every second. She loves you so much. Will I get to go home soon? Emma asked. I miss my room. I miss my toys. The assassin watched Dr. Venn's bio signs on his secondary monitor. Elevated heart rate, cortisol spike, the physical markers of someone telling a lie they desperately wish was true. Soon, darling, the doctor said, smoothing the child's hair. Soon. We're working very hard to make you better. Just a little longer, okay? Can you be brave a little longer for me? Okay, Dr. Venn, I'll be brave. The doctor stayed with Emma until the girl fell back asleep. Then she stood, walked to her terminal, and put her head in her hands. He'd watched targets torture prisoners without breaking a sweat. He'd never seen anyone cry while looking at a computer screen. Emma had 3 weeks left, maybe 4. Dr. Venn knew it, and she was lying to a 9-year-old girl because the truth was unbearable. He spent the third day analyzing her work. 12 children, 12 variations of the same degenerative disease. Progressive neurological breakdown, organ failure, muscular deterioration, and all of them born after Imperial Standard Year 389.M41. That specificity bothered him. Diseases don't respect calendars. They don't suddenly appear in one specific year across multiple unrelated patients unless they're introduced. He dug deeper into the station's archives, medical records, census data, birth registries. The pattern was undeniable. Before 389.M41, 0 cases. After 389.M41, 1 in every 1,000 children born developed this condition. 1,000. In a sector with a population of 40 million, that was 40,000 children. 40,000 death sentences. And Dr. Elara Venn, with her cracked glasses and worn lab coat, was desperately searching through forbidden Xenos knowledge, trying to save 12 of them. She was committing heresy, the Inquisitor stated, using Xenos biological materials, Eldari medical texts, Tau research protocols, each one a capital offense. Yes, the assassin agreed. She was committing heresy to save dying children that the Imperium had already written off as acceptable losses. Acceptable losses in service of population management, Valdez corrected. A necessary function of governance across a million worlds. Tell me, Inquisitor, the assassin asked, his voice dropping to barely a whisper, how many dead children is acceptable? Give me the exact number. 10, 100, 1,000, 40,000. Long silence, 3 seconds. I'll give you mine. 0. And that's why I failed. On the 4th night, he made his decision. Not to kill her. Not yet. But to understand. He disabled the surveillance system. Bypassed the biometric locks. Entered Research Bay Gamma 12 through the primary entrance instead of the maintenance shafts. Dr. Venn was at her terminal. Back to the door. So focused on her work, she didn't hear the door open. Didn't hear him approach. He could have killed her right then. 10 seconds. Silent. Mission complete. Instead, he spoke. Dr. Elara Venn. She turned, saw him, and her expression wasn't fear. It was resignation. I've been expecting you, she said quietly. The Inquisition doesn't tolerate heretics, after all. I assume you're here to kill me. I'm here to understand, he said. She studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, let me show you something. She turned back to her terminal. Her fingers moved across the keys with practiced efficiency. Patient 004. Emma Kraslow. Age 8. Daughter of a hab maintenance worker and a food processor technician. She likes drawing. Wants to be an artist when she grows up. Her favorite color is purple. 2 weeks ago, her kidneys began failing. I've managed to stabilize her with dialysis and synthetic hormones, but it's temporary. Without a cure, she has maybe 40 days left. She opened another file. Patient 007. Marcus Thule. Age 12. Both parents died in a mining accident 3 years ago. Station raised him. He's brilliant with numbers. Could work for the Administratum one day. Contribute to the Imperium in ways his parents never could. His neural degradation started 6 months ago. He can barely walk now. Barely speak. In another month, his brainstem will shut down and he'll stop breathing. She looked at him. Her eyes were red-rimmed from exhaustion and grief. I can tell you about all 12 of them, Agent. Their names, their dreams, their families, the futures they'll never have because the Imperium decided their sector was growing too efficiently. Would that make your mission easier or harder? He stared at the screens. 12 faces, 12 files, 12 death sentences. What did the Imperium do to them? He asked. She pulled up another file. This one marked with clearance seals that made his blood run cold. Classified. Obsidian Plus. Departamento Munitorum. Population Management Initiative. Valerius Sector. They poisoned them, Dr. Venn said simply. The Administratum introduced a gene therapy protocol into the sector's water reclamation systems. They called it efficiency, called it resource optimization, called it necessary population control. What they didn't account for was the 1 in 1,000 complication. Children born after the introduction who developed this degenerative condition. 40,000 across the sector. 40,000 children sentenced to death by bureaucratic mathematics. And when they discovered the complication, they classified it, sealed the records, declared any research into treatment to be heretical study of forbidden genetic manipulation. She turned to face him fully. So, I committed heresy. I studied Eldari medical texts, Tau research protocols, Tyranid bioregeneration. Because our own Imperium would rather let children die screaming than risk the contamination of alien knowledge. Now, are you going to kill me, or are you going to help me? She played him the original memo, dated 3/87/M41, 2 years before the first child got sick. The voice was cold, efficient, bureaucratic. After comprehensive analysis of demographic trends in the Balearia sector, the Departmentum Unitorum has determined current population growth to be inefficient for Imperial resource allocation. Birth rates exceed optimal worker replacement ratios by 17%. Recommendation: implement Gene Therapy Protocol Theta 7 in sector water reclamation systems. Expected result: 15% reduction in birth rates over 20-year implementation period. Minimal public awareness required. Authorization: High Lord Administratum Vexilius Crane. Implementation: immediate. The assassin stared at the screen. They didn't even hide it, he said quietly. They documented poisoning 40 million people like it was a routine maintenance request. Because to them, it was, Dr. Venn said, the Imperium doesn't see people, Agent. It sees numbers, resources, quotas, and when the numbers don't align with optimal efficiency, they adjust the numbers. 40,000 dead children is just rounding error. She showed him the science. Protocol Theta 7, a retroviral gene therapy designed to reduce fertility rates by targeting specific reproductive hormones. Simple, elegant, effective, and utterly catastrophic for 1 in every 1,000 children. The complication wasn't even complex, she explained, her voice taking on the clinical tone of a scientist describing a failed experiment. The therapy targeted a hormone cluster that regulates reproduction, but in rare cases, that same cluster is linked to neurological development. When you suppress it, you trigger a cascade failure in brain chemistry. The result? Progressive neural degradation, organ failure, death before age 15, 100% fatal, 100% preventable if you just don't poison people in the first place. But prevention would require admitting what they did, and the Imperium doesn't admit mistakes. She pulled up another screen. This one covered an alien script. Beautiful, flowing characters that looked more like art than language. The Eldari have been manipulating genetics for millions of years. They understand biological systems in ways we can't even conceptualize. And in their medical texts, I found a potential treatment. Not a cure, not salvation, just a chance. A slim possibility that maybe I could save these 12 children. And if I could save 12, then maybe I could save 40,000. Where did you get these? The assassin asked, gesturing at the alien texts. She smiled bitterly. Does it matter? I'm already a heretic. Whether I got them from a rogue trader or summoned them from the warp with blood magic, the sentence is the same. But for your peace of mind, a trader passing through 6 months ago, he didn't know what he had. Thought they were decorative artifacts. I traded 3 months of my salary for a data crystal that contained the entire Eldari medical archives of the craft world Ulthwi. I've been studying them ever since, cross-referencing with Tau bioengineering principles and Tyranid regenerative mechanisms, looking for commonalities, patterns, anything that might translate to human biology. And I found something, a treatment protocol that uses targeted retroviral therapy to essentially rewrite the damaged genetic code. It's experimental, untested on humans, success rate unknown. But it's a chance, the only chance these children have. The assassin looked from the screens to the sleeping children to the exhausted woman who'd committed heresy to try to save them. How close are you? He asked. She laughed. It was the saddest sound he'd ever heard. 3 months, maybe 4. I need time to synthesize the treatment. Test it. Verify it won't cause more harm than good. Time I don't have. Because you're here to kill me. This is where you made your choice, the Inquisitor said. You should have eliminated the target immediately. Every moment of hesitation was a betrayal of your oaths. The assassin coughed, blood on his lips. The poison working faster now. You're right, he said. I should have killed her, burned her research, filed my report, been back on Calidus Prime within the week. But I didn't. Why? Valdez demanded. Why did you spare a confirmed heretic engaged in Xeno's tainted research? Because I looked at those 12 dying children, at that exhausted woman who was sacrificing everything trying to save them, at an Imperium that would rather let 40,000 kids die than admit it made a mistake. And I realized something, Inquisitor. The Heretic wasn't the one studying alien texts. The heresy was the Imperium that made it necessary. I stood in that research bay for 17 minutes. The assassin continued, listening to medical equipment beep, watching 12 children breathe, thinking about efficiency, mathematics, acceptable losses. Emma shifted in her sleep. Her hand reached out, looking for her mother, who wasn't allowed to visit because the administratum hadn't processed her clearance paperwork yet. Marcus stopped breathing for 3 seconds. Just stopped, and then started again. The monitor didn't even alarm because his baseline was already so low that brief respiratory failure was considered normal. Sarah cried in her sleep, just soft whimpers. She didn't even wake up. Her body was in so much pain that she cried unconsciously. And I thought about my orders, my duty, my 17 years of perfect service. And I walked away. I told Dr. Venn to disappear, take her research, vanish into the void. I'd report equipment failure, buy her time. She refused. Why? The Inquisitor asked. Because if she ran, those 12 children would die, and she couldn't live with that, even knowing you'd send another agent, even knowing she'd die. She said, I can't. If I run, they die. And if I stay, maybe I save them. That's not really a choice at all, is it? He left the station the next day, reported equipment malfunction, requested extraction, and by the time he reached the extraction point, he tasted almonds, the telltale sign of Imperial toxin-grade cyanide derivative, modified to work slowly, painfully, giving time for interrogation. They'd known. Of course they'd known. Did you complete the mission, Inquisitor? The assassin asked, his voice fading. Did your secondary asset kill Dr. Venn? Agent Kestrel completed the mission 18 days ago, Valdez said emotionlessly. Dr. Elara Venn was terminated via precision loss shot through her frontal lobe. Death was instantaneous. Her research was destroyed. The facility was sterilized. And the children? Quarantined. Venn granted the Emperor's mercy. You killed them, the assassin whispered. 12 children. You murdered 12 dying children to cover up the Imperium's mistake. We eliminated a contamination risk, Valdez corrected. Standard protocol for Xeno's exposure. They were 8 years old. They were acceptable losses. The assassin's voice was barely audible. 40,000 children, Inquisitor, across the Belarius sector. All of them born after the Imperium poisoned their parents. All of them developing the same degenerative condition. All of them classified as acceptable losses. How many of them are dead now? How many died while Dr. Venn was working on a cure? How many will die because you destroyed her research? Give me a number, Inquisitor. I want to know the exact count of acceptable child deaths. The Inquisitor said nothing. I'll tell you what I learned on Malmouth-Seven. The assassin continued, each word costing him. I learned that the Imperium I'd served for 17 years. The Imperium I'd killed 247 people to protect. That Imperium is built on a foundation of acceptable atrocities. Population too high? Poison them, but do it quietly. Efficiency. Side effects: killing children. Classify it. Seal the records. Efficiency. Someone tries to save them. Kill her. Burn the research. Efficiency. We call it necessity. We call it duty. We call it service to the Emperor. But it's just murder. Industrial-scale murder. And we're all complicit. You speak of complicity, the Inquisitor said slowly, as if you've discovered some profound truth. But Agent, this is not revelation. This is simply the Imperium. We are a species on the brink of extinction, surrounded by Xenos that want us dead, corrupted by gods that want us damned, barely holding together a million worlds across an impossible distance. Sacrifices must be made. Difficult decisions must be executed. This is the mathematics of survival. Your Dr. Venn? She was brilliant, dedicated, everything you described. But she was also naive. She thought compassion was enough. that saving 12 children justified risking Xeno's contamination that could doom billions. She was wrong. The assassin laughed. It turned into coughing. Blood sprayed across the floor. You really believe that, don't you? He gasped when he could speak. You've told yourself that story so many times that you actually believe it. But answer me this, Inquisitor. If 40,000 dead children is acceptable, if poisoning entire populations is necessary, if burning the one person trying to help is justified, then what exactly are we defending? Silence filled the interrogation chamber. The servo skull's recording light pulsed. Red, patient, documenting everything. I've killed for the Imperium, the assassin whispered. Traitors, heretics, corrupted politicians, Xeno sympathizers. Every single one deserved it. Every single one was a threat. But Emma, Marcus, Sarah, those 12 children hooked to machines, dying slowly from something the Imperium did to them. They weren't threats. They were victims. And Dr. Elara Venn, working 20-hour shifts, sleeping in a chair, sacrificing everything to try to save them. She wasn't a heretic. She was a hero. And we killed her for it. The Inquisitor stood, walked to the small barred window, looked out at the stars. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Quieter, less certain. I have served the Inquisition for 43 years, he said. I have burned heretics, purged worlds, destroyed anything and anyone that threatened the Imperium's survival. I have made difficult decisions, sacrificed the few to save the many, ended lives to preserve civilization. I have never questioned whether I was right. Until now. Sound. Servo skull's recording light brightens. Do not mistake me, Agent. I still believe Dr. Venn's actions were heretical, that her research, however noble her intentions, represented an unacceptable contamination risk. But 40,000 children. That number bothers me. It shouldn't. I've signed execution orders for millions. Authorized exterminatus on 3 separate worlds. Watch populations burn to prevent chaos corruption. But those were necessary. Clear threats. Obvious dangers. These were just children. Sick children. Victims of our own efficiency protocols. He turned back to face the dying assassin. And we killed the one person trying to save them. You're right, Agent. That does make us complicit. The assassin was dead, slumped in his chair, eyes open, staring at nothing. The poison had done its work. The Inquisitor stood there for a long moment, looking at the body, thinking thoughts he shouldn't think, feeling things he shouldn't feel. Record disposition, he said to the skull. His voice was mechanical again. Professional. Throne Agent 779. Name, redacted. Status, deceased. Cause, training accident during live-fire exercise. Loyalty, unquestioned. Service record, exemplary. Recommendation, full honors. Citations to be forwarded to next of kin. File to be sealed. Clearance, Obsidian Plus. No further investigation required. The Inquisitor walked to the door, paused, looked back at the body one final time. The God Emperor forgive us all, he whispered. The interrogation chamber was empty. The confession was complete, and nothing had changed. Inquisitor Castor Valdez walked through the corridors of Fortress Terminus 9, past cells holding heretics awaiting judgment, past interrogation rooms where other confessions were being extracted, past chapels where priests chanted prayers to the Emperor. He'd walked these corridors for 43 years. They'd never felt this long before. In his quarters, he sat at his desk, stared at the data slate containing Agent 779's final confession. The servo skull recording. Every word, every accusation, every truth. He could erase it, seal it so deeply that no one would ever find it. Or, his finger hovered over the delete command. He encrypted it instead, triple locked, and filed it under his personal archives. Labeled, questions I cannot answer. 40,000 children. That number wouldn't leave him alone. How many is acceptable? He whispered to the empty room. No one answered. The Emperor, as always, remained silent. 3 weeks after Dr. Elara Venn died, 2 weeks after Agent 779 confessed, and expired. Station Malmouth-Seven was officially classified as contaminated. The 17,000 inhabitants were relocated, scattered across a dozen other stations and colony worlds. Research Bay Gamma-12 was sealed, sterilized with plasma fire. The 12 medical beds where children had fought for breath were reduced to molecular ash. Every trace of Dr. Venn's research was destroyed. Every Xenos text, every treatment protocol, every hope, burned. The Administratum filed a report. Research facility compromised by Xenos contamination. Population relocated. Incident resolved. Efficiency maintained. And in the Belarius sector, children continued to die. 1 in every 1,000. 40,000 death sentences. Acceptable losses. Patient 013. Jacob, age 10, died 16 days after Dr. Venn. Patient 017. Maria, age 7, died 22 days after. Patient 024. Thomas, age 11, died 1 month after. The Administratum Census updated their statuses from medical dependency to resource allocation concluded, which is how the Imperium says dead child. Their parents were notified by standardized form letter. The God Emperor required your child's service. Grieve efficiently. Return to your duties. Emma Kraslow's mother received her letter during a work shift in the food processing plant. She read it twice, put it in her pocket, returned to work. Because what else can you do? The Imperium doesn't allow time for grief, only efficiency. But here's what the reports don't say, what the Administratum doesn't track, what the Inquisition doesn't record. Emma's mother stopped sleeping, started making mistakes at work, small ones at first, then larger. Within 3 months, she was flagged for efficiency review. Within 6, she was demoted to waste reclamation. Within a year, she walked out an airlock without a suit. The census updated her status to resource allocation concluded. The Imperium called it suicide, but it was murder. Just slow, bureaucratic, efficient murder. And it happened to every family that lost a child to Protocol Theta-7. 40,000 children dead, 40,000 families broken, 80,000 parents who stopped believing the Imperium cared if they lived or died. Because it doesn't. In his private archives, Inquisitor Valdez kept the recording. He told himself it was for historical purposes, documentation, thoroughness. But really, he kept it because he couldn't answer the question. How many children is acceptable? He'd authorized 3 exterminatus orders in his career. Worlds burned, billions dead. He never lost sleep over those decisions. Clear threats, chaos corruption, genestealer infestation, orc whack that couldn't be contained, necessary sacrifices. But 40,000 children, dying slowly from something the Imperium did to them, and when someone tried to save them, the Imperium killed her too. That was different. That felt wrong, and he didn't know what to do with that feeling. So he did nothing. Filed the report, sealed the records, moved on to the next heretic. Because what else can you do? The Imperium doesn't change, only efficient. Agent Kestrel completed her mission flawlessly. 1 shot, precision loss weapon, through Dr. Venn's frontal lobe. The doctor never even saw her coming. Kestrel filed her report. Target eliminated. Research destroyed. No complications. Awaiting next assignment. She felt nothing about killing a woman trying to save children. She'd been trained not to feel. She was perfect. Unlike Agent 779. Unlike the man who hesitated. Unlike the fool who thought compassion mattered. Kestrel was promoted within the month. Given commendations. Offered transfer to more prestigious assignments. The Imperium rewards efficiency, not mercy. Never mercy. And across the Imperium, the machine ground forward. On 1,000 worlds, population management protocols were being implemented. Chemical adjustments to water supplies. Genetic therapies introduced without consent. Birth rate manipulations. Death rate optimizations. All of it classified. All of it necessary. All of it efficient. And when complications arose, when children died, when families broke, the Administratum filed reports. The Inquisition sealed records. The machine moved forward. Because the Imperium isn't evil. It's not deliberately cruel. It's just pause. Big. So impossibly, incomprehensibly big that individual lives stop mattering. You become numbers, resources, acceptable losses. And no one can stop it. Not assassins who hesitate. Not doctors who commit heresy. Not inquisitors who file away questions they can't answer. The machine is too big. The system is too vast. The Imperium is eternal. And it will grind you into dust while calling it necessity. There's a question the Imperium doesn't ask. A question buried under 10,000 years of dogma and desperation. If the God Emperor sits silent on his golden throne, if he cannot speak, cannot act, cannot guide, then who decides? Who decides that 40,000 children is acceptable? Who decides that efficiency matters more than mercy? Who decides that one woman's heresy is worse than an empire's atrocity? The answer is, we do. Not the Emperor, not some grand cosmic plan. Us. Every inquisitor who signs an execution order. Every administrator who implements a population protocol. Every assassin who pulls the trigger. Every citizen who looks away. We are the Imperium, and the Imperium's crimes are our crimes. Agent 779's official record lists him as a hero. 17 years of flawless service. 247 enemies of the Imperium eliminated. Died in a training accident. Full honors. The record doesn't mention Station Malmouth-Seven. Doesn't mention Dr. Elara Venn. Doesn't mention 12 dying children. Doesn't mention that he hesitated. Doesn't mention that he failed. Doesn't mention that he was murdered for growing a conscience. The Imperium rewrites history. Makes heroes of assassins and traitors of those who question. Calls genocide population management. Calls poisoning children efficiency protocols. Calls murder acceptable losses. And we let it, because the alternative is admitting what we've become. A machine that eats its own children and calls it survival. Dr. Elara Venn died instantly. Agent, AO, continue. Kestrel's shot was perfect. No pain, no suffering. Professional. Her last thought was probably of the children. Whether Marcus would survive another week. Whether Emma's kidneys could hold out. Whether her research would be enough. It wasn't. Her work was burned. The children were granted mercy. Her name was erased from records. The Imperium called her a heretic, a traitor, a Xeno's sympathizer. But she was none of those things. She was a doctor who tried to save her patients, a scientist who pursued truth, a human being who refused to accept 40,000 dead children as acceptable. And for that, the Imperium killed her. Because mercy is heresy, compassion is weakness, and questioning the system is the greatest crime of all. Emma, Marcus, Sarah, Jacob, Thomas, Maria, Elise, David, Sophie, Lucas, Olivia, Nathan. 12 names, 12 children, 12 futures that never happened. Emma never became the artist she wanted to be. Marcus never worked for the administratum. Sarah never saw her 7th birthday. They died in quarantine, sealed in Research Bay Gamma 12, granted the Emperor's mercy, which means they were killed. Quickly, efficiently, painlessly, probably. Because dead children are better than children who might be contaminated by Xeno's knowledge. Dead children are better than admitting the Imperium made a mistake. Dead children are better than changing the system. At least, that's what the Imperium decided. And no one could stop it. Not a doctor, not an assassin, not an inquisitor with questions he couldn't answer. No one. So here's the question Dr. Venn asked. The question Agent 779 died asking. The question Inquisitor Valdez can't answer. How many children is acceptable? 10, 100, 1,000, 40,000? Where's the line? At what number does efficiency become evil? When does mathematics become murder? When does necessity become atrocity? The Imperium says there is no line, that survival justifies anything, that the few must always be sacrificed for the many, that this is simply the price of existence in a hostile galaxy. Maybe they're right. Maybe there is no alternative. Maybe an empire spanning 1,000,000 worlds has to make these calculations. Maybe mercy is a luxury we can't afford. Or maybe we've just convinced ourselves of that. Because the alternative is admitting we've become the monsters we claim to fight. This is what Agent 779 understood in his final moments. What Dr. Venn understood when she committed heresy. What Inquisitor Valdez is beginning to understand in the quiet of his quarters. The Imperium is not evil because it's cruel. It's evil because it's indifferent. It doesn't hate you. It doesn't want to hurt you. It simply doesn't care. You are a number, a resource, a line item in an efficiency report. And when the math says you're not worth the cost, when the calculations determine you're expendable, you cease to matter. You become acceptable losses. You're erased with the same bureaucratic efficiency used to file supply requisitions. And that's worse than cruelty, because cruelty at least acknowledges you exist. The Imperium doesn't even do that. It just grinds you into dust and moves on. Forever. The interrogation chamber is empty now. Agent 779's body has been removed. The chains cleaned. The blood scrubbed away. Within hours, another prisoner will occupy that chair. Another confession will be extracted. Another life will end in service to Imperial truth. The machine continues. But something changed in that room. Something small. Something the Administratum won't track. Something the Inquisition won't record. Inquisitor Castor Valdez is not the same man who entered that chamber. He performed his duty, extracted the confession, filed the proper reports. But the question remains: how many children is acceptable? 3 days after the confession, Inquisitor Valdez sits in his quarters, staring at the encrypted file. He's listened to it 17 times now. Every word, every accusation, every truth he wishes was a lie. Tomorrow, he'll sign another execution order, probably several. Heretics who need burning, threats that need eliminating. He'll do his duty. He always does. But he'll think about Emma, about Marcus, about Sarah, about 12 children who died because he destroyed the only person trying to save them. And he'll ask himself the question: how many is acceptable? Pause. He still doesn't have an answer. Maybe there isn't one. Across the Imperium, nothing changes. A million worlds turn. Trillions of humans serve. The machine grinds forward. On Baleria's Prime, children continue to die. On Malmouth-Seven's abandoned hulk, ghosts haunt sealed corridors. On 1,000 other worlds, population protocols are implemented without question. The Administratum files reports. The Inquisition seals records. The Assassinorum completes missions. Efficiency maintained. Necessity served. Survival ensured. And if you listen very carefully, if you quiet all the prayers and propaganda, if you ignore the triumphant rhetoric about humanity's glory, you can hear them. The acceptable losses. 40,000 children in Belarius. Millions more across the Imperium. All the Dr. Venns who try to help. All the Agent 779s who hesitated. All the people who became numbers. All the souls who were ground into dust. All the voices that asked questions the Imperium couldn't answer. They're silent now. Efficient. But here's what the Imperium doesn't understand. What 10,000 years of brutality hasn't taught them. Every person who hesitates. Every doctor who commits heresy for compassion. Every assassin who can't pull the trigger. Every inquisitor who files away questions they can't answer. They're cracks in the machine. Small cracks. Meaningless cracks. The machine is so vast that individual failures don't matter. Except that they do. Because Agent 779's confession exists. Hidden. Encrypted. Buried. But it exists. And somewhere, someday, someone else will find it. Another inquisitor. Another assassin. Another servant of the Imperium who starts asking questions. And they'll hear the same story. About 40,000 children. About a doctor who tried to save them. About an assassin who couldn't kill her. And maybe they'll hesitate too. Maybe they'll ask the same question. How many children is acceptable? And maybe enough people asking that question changes something. Or maybe not. Maybe the machine is too big. Maybe the Imperium is eternal. Maybe survival really does require these sacrifices. Maybe 40,000 dead children is acceptable. But Agent 779 died, believing otherwise. Dr. Elara Venn committed heresy, believing otherwise. Inquisitor Castor Valdez sits in his quarters, unable to sleep, questioning everything he's ever done. Because he's starting to believe otherwise. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. There's only cruelty. There's only the grinding machinery of an empire that devours its own people in the name of survival. But there are also questions, confessions, hesitations, small moments of humanity in an inhuman system. They don't change anything. Not really. Not yet. But they're there, hidden in encrypted files, whispered in empty corridors, buried in the hearts of people who serve the Imperium, and couldn't stop wondering if they were serving a lie. This was the confession of Throne Agent 779. His crime was mercy. His sentence was death. His legacy is a question that won't die. How many children is acceptable?